Hey there, and welcome to what is it today? It's 1 o'clock. It's Thursday. It's check in and crack on. The confusion comes from me just changing tomorrow's presentation slide. So, come on, let's tell the truth. I like to leave all of my presentation till the very last minute. So, of course, I prepped in advance. I knew what we were going to be talking about tomorrow, and I know what we were going to be talking about every day this week. But I like to keep everything fresh and up to date. And there was all of a sudden some new things that I needed to add in. So I always leave my kind of presentation notes and slides until the final moment. Usually that would actually end up being the evening before going live because I like to do that, like to leave things last minute. But tonight I'm off to go and see Bond. So I won't actually have time to do any last minute tweaks and changes tonight. So today it is time to check in and crack on. I'm going to make sure I've got my comments open. I've got some fancy banner technology set up. I have a cat that's going to be popping her face in every now and then. So let's get cracking, shall we? I'm going to wait just and check that this is actually streaming because I didn't actually check that first of all. I want to make sure that we are actually live and that people can see and comment. I can see that we're live on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, let me know because I can't see if we are live on there or not, which maybe we're going live in the wrong place. Who knows? Anyway, it's all fun. So, questions. Now, thank you to everyone who pre-submitted some questions. So I'm going to start with a bit of a fun exploration question. So Dr. Steve Burwell, you submitted, and thank you very much for sending over your kind of possible font choice. So we talked last time about creating logo marks when your business is just a personal brand name, and that whether you should actually create a logo mark using your personal name, which actually is a question that I know has also been asked again later. So we'll get back to that again in a minute. But for today, I thought it would be fun to do a little bit of a kind of hands-on session. So I'm going to switch my screen so that we can hopefully, there we go, you can see me and you can see, we want to be able to see that. Just make me smaller so you can see this screen here. And I'm going to switch over so that you can see me talking through this work. We're talking about your logo design. So on your website, which I love your website, it's got some really nice, obviously the images, brilliant imagery on there, really nice feel to it. Hey, hi Steve, I'm glad that you are here because you're up first. It's a good job you're here. You recognize that face. So thank you for sending this in and for coming on to be able to kind of showcase your brand in real time here. So all I've done is I've taken the information that you've given me so far. We've got your current logo mark, which is just your name being used as a brand name here, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But what I do think we could do is play with the font choices, which is what the question that you're asking. And rather than me just tell you some font choices, I wanted to show you them and talk through those decisions so you can see kind of a bit of the process behind choosing a font if you're just going to use a font-based logo mark. Because while your brand is just your name, you can absolutely create a kind of identity, a logo mark, whatever we want to call them, just using your name. So you've listed out some of your kind of core values for this stage, which are approachable, fun, different, smart, insightful, thought-provoking, surprising, amazing, unique, energetic. You can read. I won't read them all out to you. Your logo at the moment, what you're using for a logo, is quite standard. It feels quite approachable. So you've got some of that within your values. And it does feel quite corporate though, which if you are going towards that kind of side of things, then great, it could be a brilliant font choice for you. But as some of your value words are around being fun and different and amazing and surprising and funny and exciting, I feel like the font choice is letting you down a little bit on those sides. It works great for education, but it hasn't got that entertainment feel to it. Now, that doesn't mean that we need to go kind of crazy and choose some sort of vibrant, crazy display font. So I'm just going to show you the thought process that I go through when picking fonts. So first up, let's look at some alternative fonts. So taking a very similar font to what you've got here, still with that approachable, fun feel, but making it just a little bit more engaging. It's a little different because you're not using the standardized capitalization for your name, which is a bit different. It's a little bit alternative. But it's not all that out there crazy. It's not that different, but it's a little bit more fun. So it's just a small step change without having to make any big drastic changes. Then, of course, we've got the next type of font down here, which adds in a little bit more of that kind of fun, energetic. It's a bit thought-provoking, but it's got that kind of soft curvature feel to the identity there. And it does give a different kind of very different feeling to the standardized straight sans serif fonts at the top. They're taking it a little step further, this more bold version of it. And again, that still plays more to that kind of funny, energetic, impact, whatever words we've got here, exciting kind of feel to it. It's a little bit more surprising as a font in itself because it's not one that you would typically see within this kind of space. So it's a little bit different. But what I really love exploring and what I want to take you into are using kind of like a signature font. So for me, because of course, part of your, where are we here? We've got, it says up in the top, medical, where was it? We've got it, what did I read it here? I liked the liner. Anyway, medical doctor and stand-up comedian. Quite like that as a little tagline. So we might want to bring a tagline into your logo design. So let's talk about that kind of doctor feel. Let's play on that a little bit, but without, being too serious about it. We want to bring in that comedy side still. So I love this kind of curvature in fonts to be able to get that feeling. It's so much more of an expressive representation of your brand values than just using the standard kind of font choice that we have here. This doesn't really say very much. It says your name. It says you are not boring. It says that you don't really have much else to say other than it being your name. Although there's nothing particularly wrong with that font choice, it doesn't really stand out or say much about you as a person. Whereas when we start to bring in some of this kind of style, we can start to bring in a bit of your personality. Now, of course, if you hate all of these fonts, that's absolutely fine. There are thousands of fonts out there for you to choose from. And I'm not saying that you necessarily have to go with one of these. I'm just bringing in some of the types of fonts that you could perhaps explore. And again, down at the bottom, going kind of very similar font choice to the top here, but just tweaking it slightly because sometimes it's just those really small tweaks that can make all of the difference, and going for a really kind of thin font style and going all caps as well. Because again, that just makes it slightly different. It's a little bit of a surprise to the eyes because it's not in the standardized sentence case that we're used to. Now, taking it a little bit further. So you can see where my kind of favorite font style landed here. I just really like the way that the S works. This actually is a font that I've used recently, so I was aware of it. It was one that sprung straight to my mind whilst I was thinking about this kind of fun, approachable, a little bit different feel that we want to create within your brand identity, just using your name within your logo. But I loved also the way that we could kind of mix the two together. So you've got that kind of clear, sensible side. You've got the educational side of your business, and then you've got the entertaining side. You've got that more approachable, friendly, funny feel by just having this really huge expression of an S that like stands out so far above the normal line of text. And then, of course, if we did it in this version, this could be a version of your logo mark that you use, because you don't just have to have one. Oh no. Once you've chosen your kind of font choices, so for here, if you've got this kind of curvature font that we're using, this kind of signature style font, and then you've got your main kind of standard copy font that we use for any of your kind of sign-offs or any main headlines and things, you could actually use both versions of these throughout your brand. So it could be that this version here becomes your kind of core logo mark, as it were. And then this version, just on its own, pick it up here. Ooh, I missed one part of it. Copy and paste. This could be on its own as a little signature that you actually put on things. It could be a watermark over your videos, over your show reel. It could be a watermark that you use to sign off on social media posts, or it could even just be something that you add to the bottom of your contracts and things like that, which just brings in a little bit more of that personality style rather than just using standardized font everywhere. So, just because I had to take it a little bit further again. I loved that at the top here, I noticed that we had this little splash of a dot of colour. And I like that. I think that's a really nice little personality touch to keep within there. So definitely keep that, and you can keep it within this star. But I really feel like this could work nicely as a logo mark for you. It's a simple logo mark. It's just using your name, but it's adding that kind of consideration to the font choices to really help bring out some of your core values. So let me know what you think. And I'm absolutely happy to, I'll share this Canva document with you if you like, so that you've got that. You can take that away. If you want to just use it, you can use it. You know, if you want to use it as an inspiration to kind of take your brand and your logo marks to that next level, then you're absolutely welcome to do so. So let me know what you think. What did you think of that, Steve? Was that helpful? Did that help answer your question about your font choices and what you can use when you're creating that logo mark? Let me know. Thanks. Excellent. Yay. I'm glad that helped. And if you've got any follow-up questions, just let me know. But as I say, I will reply to your email with a link to that Canva document so that you can go ahead and play with that in your own time as well. So next up, let's look at some of the questions that have come through. And now that I've figured out how wonderful, where are we? StreamYard? That's the name of the place, isn't it? Yeah, StreamYard is, and that I can use banners. I have put the questions into banners that I can click to add to the screen. A quick sip of water. I've also got actually my coffee cup here, which is one of my clients' branded coffee cups. Have a little look. Isn't that cool? I love it. That's an identity that we created, and it's on a coffee mug now. I love these things. Any branded merchandise, absolutely love it. So, next question. Mission statements. So mission statements is a question on its own, but I've got Media Matchmaker and created that brand name. So it really says what it does, but then do I need to have a mission statement to go with it? And how do I make it simple? So yes, you could have a kind of mission statement to go with it. Now, it depends what you mean by a mission statement. So if you're thinking about kind of a really long worded document, it's useful to have that as an internal part of your brand. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have it as an external facing aspect of your brand. And of course, I mean, you don't really necessarily have to have anything. You don't necessarily have to have, which way is it, a logo? But look, I've added my little logo up here as well. How exciting. Can't do to figure out how to do backwards and forwards. Anyway, you don't have to have anything in your brand if you don't want to, but will it help you? Absolutely. It will absolutely help if you use a kind of tagline or a mission statement that goes alongside your business or brand name. So for example, I just showed you there of Steve's, we kind of brought in a bit of a tagline because the logo name itself doesn't really explain what you do. So you need a tagline to reinforce it. Now, whereas here, your brand name, Media Matchmaker, really quite clearly says what you do. For you and for me, when I know what you do, it makes sense. But actually, some people, it might not actually make sense to everybody. So having that kind of tagline really just allows you to add that little extra level of connection and a bit more kind of a personal connection to your brand. And that's what we're talking about when it comes to branding here. We really want to create more personal connections for people. So let's show a little example. Warning. You may get a reputation. Oh, wait, that's exactly what you want. Does that sound familiar? Have you seen that somewhere before? Let me go back to sharing. I haven't added. Yes, I have added. I can add this back in. It's one here. So warning, you may get a reputation. Oh, wait, that's exactly what you want. So you can see on my own website, let me just move that out of the way. I've used that actually as a headline. So while creating this as a kind of mission statement could be a really valuable piece to add as another level and another layer to your brand, using it as well as headlines can be a really valuable tool. So going through the process of thinking about a mission statement for your brand, going through that kind of story element that we talked about on yesterday's live session. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you go and catch up with that one. Will help to bring out a lot of the kind of language, a lot of the thoughts and opinions that you have for your business, which we can translate into little sound bites, little nuggets here that we could use on headlines, as sale pages, even as session topics, because you will notice: have your cake, eat it, and own the fucking bakery, dazzle your audience and dominate your industry, and life after your logo. And those are the names of the sessions that we're going through here. But they also work really well as little straplines, little mission statements for my brand. So yes, By Design is my core brand name. Really, By Design on its own doesn't really say much about my business. So I've got these sound bites, these little mission statements that help back up what it is that I do. And that's the point here of the mission statement. It's not about having this really long piece of copy. This is a great mission statement within the first section of my website, our mission: turn your brand into your audience's favorite obsession. So on its own, that first headline from the mission statement that I've created here is a really great tagline for my brand and my business. So yes, I really think it is valuable to have a mission statement that backs up your brand. And then you can pull out these kind of sound bites, these little nuggets, these little strap lines to pop in to your brand, to use as a tagline underneath your logo mark, even if you think your business name says exactly what it does on the tin. Having that little extra level of a reminder and enhancement, that little bit deeper into the story behind your brand, is always going to help. So hopefully that's answered that question. Don't forget, as we're live here, any questions that you've got, pop them into the chat and I can bring those up on screen. So I will be here until we have answered all of the questions. And if we don't have that many more questions, then we won't be here for very long. But I have got a few more pre-submitted questions to go through. So next question. How do I know when I need to do a rebrand? Well, my kind of quickest answer always to this is, if you are actually that you might need to do a rebrand right now, then you are very much likely needing to do a rebrand. Now, rebrand can mean a whole host of things, really. It doesn't mean that you have to completely, burn everything down and start again. It could be just some kind of small tweaks and changes. It could be going back to the story part, like we spoke about in the first phase of your brand yesterday, and reassessing some of those questions, answering those questions again, and just check in to see if your brand is reaching up to those points, if it's really translating who you are and what you want to be known for into a visual representation of that. And if it's not, then you should definitely work through the process and go through the rebrand. Now, it might be that you have to change all of the visual identity of your brand, or it could just be that you need to change some of the messaging that you've got, or maybe some of the strategy side. It could actually be that some of the products and the systems need updating. So how do you know when you need to do a rebrand? By going through the kind of 3-part process, starting at the story stage, asking those questions and seeing how well you feel that your brand matches up to that. Now, another warning sign, and I kind of did a little snippet of warning signs on one of our sessions, so go back and have a quick look at that. I will send you a link to it. One of the clear warning signs that you need a rebrand is when you are not attracting the right kind of people into your business. So if you truthfully ask yourself right now, am I, first of all, enjoying the work that I do? Am I enjoying the people that I'm working with? And am I attracting kind of a steady flow of the right kind of people into my business? Ask yourself that honestly. And if you are, okay, great. Maybe you don't need to focus on a rebrand right now. Schedule it in for a couple of months' time, because I do believe that you should absolutely have a kind of quarterly brand review with yourself and your team, just to make sure that you can check in and confirm that your brand is showing up as the best kind of salesperson for your business, because that is what your brand should be doing. It should be helping you get your message out there in a way that connects with the right kind of people and attracts them into your business consistently. that is constantly out there helping you grow your brand and help you grow your business. So that's kind of warning signs. If you're not attracting those perfect people in, then you definitely need to focus on your rebrand, because it's exactly that is the role of your brand, is to get out there and to show up for you and to attract those perfect people into your world. So if you are not working with those people right now, if you are ever feeling a bit kind of like in your business and you don't really get excited about showing up every day and working with people every day, if you don't feel like I do every time I get on one of these calls, which is just so excited to come and connect with and talk to my kind of customers, then you definitely need to look at your brand and you need to perhaps refocus and reevaluate and rebrand your business. So ask yourself that question and honestly answer it. And I'd love to know what that kind of gut feeling is for you, if you feel like you do really need a rebrand, or if you feel like everything is ticking along perfectly for you right now. Okay. Next question. So, when you have a personal brand and a business brand, do you need a logo for your personal brand? So, for example, as a speaker and a coach, when you use your name for your speaker brand and a business name, I think I've cut off half the question there. Sorry about that. So, for example, as a speaker and a coach, when do you use your name for your speaker brand and a business name for your business brand? Okay, that makes sense. So, do you need a logo for your personal brand? Again, coming back to this like need. Do you need a logo? You don't necessarily always need a logo. Will it help you present who you are and what you do quickly and easily? Yes. And so therefore, I think it is quite an important tool to have. If you struggle to kind of differentiate between your personal brand and your business brand, then having a logo mark, a clear kind of brand identity set for both of those options will be really valuable, especially if those options, your kind of two business brand, your business brand and your personal brand, if they kind of serve a slightly different audience, or a completely different audience, but if they serve different people, then it would absolutely be valuable to have two distinctive and separate brand styles set up. So that includes your logo mark, but it isn't just your logo mark. It is all of the kind of feel inside of it. It's all of the brand values. Actually go through the whole branding process for both sides of your business. And in fact, every time you go to launch anything on either side of the business, if you are launching new products or services, if you're kind of launching a new speaking topic or a TED talk or that kind of thing, if you've got a new keynote session that you're focusing on, still kind of go through the branding process for each of those projects. It doesn't mean that you have to go out and hire a brand designer for each of those. You don't have to invest heavily in the kind of brand strategy work for each product, but understanding the process of branding, understanding why we make the decisions that we do within our brand styling to create that kind of visual impact for any of your products or services is a really important process. I believe it's a hugely valuable asset for you to have as a business owner when you understand and you know what you need to look out for to create a brand that really has that, successful, savagely successful, as I like to call it, kind of appeal to it. So understanding the process is really hugely important. But having a logo mark for it can be a valuable thing for you personally and for your audience, so that they can really easily distinguish between what is the personal brand and what is the business brand. And also, why wouldn't you? If you're going to the effort of creating a brand identity series or a suite of identities for your business side, but you don't do it for your personal side, what is that kind of saying subconsciously to you and to your audience about how you value those sides of your business? So that's always one to think about, because how you show up for your brand is going to be directly influence the way that your audience responds to and shows up for you. So if you're not valuing your own business by putting that level of attention and thought into something just as minimal as it may seem as having a logo mark for your personal brand, then that is going to reflect in the way that you treat your business and the way that everybody else around also treats it. So that's always something to think about when it comes to your brand. So I hope that has answered your question. I should check back in on the comments just in case there are any more comments coming in. If you're watching this on YouTube, let me know in the comments, because I've now seen that we've got Facebook comments are on, but now I've lost and dropped out of my YouTube one, so I can't see that. So let me go to the next question. This was a follow-on question, actually. What's the difference between a personal brand? So, the difference between a personal brand and a business brand is typically a personal brand is based on you, the person in your business, which is why it's called a personal brand. And the business brand is typically based on the business. So the business identity typically comes from the owner of the business. And so when we're creating kind of a business persona for a brand, typically we start with the owner of the business. I tend to work with people who are in the kind of that smaller size businesses, who maybe have a kind of a team of between 1 to 20, but it's really still their personal identity that is part of the business, even if the external view of the business and the brand is its own company name. So take, for example, my own business. I've got By Design is my company brand name. And the face of my business is very much me at the moment still. But when I come to kind of grow and scale it past me, if I want to, the business has its own identity that isn't dependent solely on me. So the downside with just a purely personal brand, if you use your face and your name solely in the business, then you can be kind of tied to that as a business owner. And therefore, if you want to kind of completely exit stage, you can be tied into it, and your brand is built based on you as the personality rather than the business itself. So understanding what you want out of your business and your brand, what the real kind of goal for creating a brand is a hugely important question. And that's why we cover that very early on in the process, so that we can understand what we are building and why we're building it. Because if you know that you really actually don't want to be the face of your business, then you just want to stay away from the personal brand side of things and build a business brand. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have your personality and your style in there. Of course not. Business brands absolutely still need to evolve around the kind of human aspect of the brand. But it's just a slight change of style, a slight kind of difference when it comes to how you present the brand. So I hope that helps answer that question for you. Steve, absolutely, you're allowed to answer as many questions as you like. It's not about hogging the session at all. So I will come back to your question. I'll get through the next couple of questions, and then I will jump into the comments and come and answer those questions as well. So next question is, how do I grow a global brand? That's a big question, okay? Because there are going to be so many different ways that you can do this. And it really comes back to what your goals is and what your definition of a global brand is. What does that really mean to you? So I'm going to be that really annoying kind of coachy person here that answers a question with a question. So I would love to really hear what you would define as a global brand. What does a global brand mean to you? And I'm having this question here, and I wanted to bring this in because I think it's actually a really valuable process to go through for all business owners around this kind of questioning. So, for example, what does it mean? I use the term savagely successful. You want to grow a savagely successful business and brand. What does that mean to you, though? I know what it means to me, but what it means to me could be very different to what it means to you. So when you are creating your business and your brand, it's yours. You get to do it on your terms. So you need to understand and define what that means to you. So how do you grow a global brand? Well, first of all, you understand what a global brand means to you. You're going to have to really put in some clear, measurable goals along the way to be able to get to that. And then start to show up consistently as that version of your brand. So I hope that answers the question. A bit of a kind of tricky way to throw that question back at you. Oh, I've moved too much. My camera's lost focus. I'm back in focus. Okay. So, right, I'm going to jump into the comments because, Steve, you are here. So I think it's only fair that I answer your question rather than anybody that's not here. So if I use a handwriting font, does it need to show up elsewhere in the website design? Okay, so a bit of a technical question there. And you know what? No, it doesn't necessarily. Because yes, hand fonts on websites can be a total pain in the ass. And also when you're designing websites, you don't always have complete control over the fonts that you're using and how they're going to show up on another person's screen. So if you are using very bespoke fonts within your brand, it's actually best not to use those as true type on the website. So in this example, if we're going to use that kind of hand font style that we've created for your logo mark, I would keep that as an image file on your website rather than text. You don't really need your name to be a text element on your website because basically you want your kind of headline tags and all of those things to be searchable. So you don't necessarily need to have your name as being a searchable keyword term. Yes, you're going to show up on Google as your name anyway, because that's going to be throughout the title tags and the content that's on your website. So I would really stick to using the font, the handwriting font style. When you've got that within your brand, use it as a additional font, not as your core font type. So you don't really want to use that handwriting font as a body copy font, for example, because it's going to be difficult for people to read, especially online on a website. So where you use that, I would really use it as like a signature sign off or as a bit of a kind of highlighter text for some key areas that add that brand feel to your site, but don't necessarily need to be read as a headline or a paragraph or any kind of font style for search engines. Of course, you can always, make sure you're using all your tagging and things like that with imagery to make sure you've got all that in. So if you do need to use the hand font for a very important key phrase, there's still ways that you can go around that. But in short answer to your question, does it need to show up on the website design? No. I would actually just stick it mostly within your logo mark or as a signature sign off, and I wouldn't use it elsewhere on the site. Okay, hope that answers your question. Next question. We are rattling through these today. So, what do the big brands do that we can do without the big budget? Now, this is a really great question. Just check in. Thanks, Steve. Good. I'm glad that's answered your question. If you have any more questions, just let me know. I am here to answer all questions. So what do the big brands do that we can do without the big budget? So this is an interesting question because it's coming from the idea of this idea that big brands are throwing loads of money at stuff. And because of that, we are at a disadvantage if you haven't got a large budget. And instead, I like to think the other way around. When you haven't got a large budget, you get to be so much more creative with the way that you can show up. And as a smaller business, compared to the big kind of brands, you are hugely advantaged. You've got a big advantage in being able to do a lot of personal kind of outreach and connection the bigger brands just can't do, that you won't be able to do when you've kind of scaled vastly. So I would really think about it that way instead. What actually can I do as a small brand with hardly any budget that big brands can't? And when you answer that question, you can come up with some interesting kind of creative things that will position you completely differently to any big brands that are out there. So I think coming at the question from the opposite direction and answering it that way could be a really interesting activity, really, to see how many kind of creative things we could come up with. So, I like to kind of set little challenges. Well, I say, I like to, but I seem to have set challenges on the last live that we did like this. So I'm going to set another challenge now. Anyone that's up for it, I want you to practice the idea of how you can show up creatively in your brand that doesn't cost you any money and that you can do as a small business and a small brand that your larger brand competitors really couldn't do. So ask yourself that question, sit with it for a little while, and I might have a prize maybe for, maybe we could do some fun kind of free merchandise branded prizes for the best kind of creative idea that comes out of that session. So hopefully that's answered your question. Again, I'm answering questions with more questions. Oh, what a terribly coaching thing to do. That's all fun. Okay, so checking in the comments again. Any more questions, let me know in the comments thread. If not, this is kind of the last pre-asked question. I actually forgot to put your names down next to the questions when I put them over. So I do apologize. I haven't actually said who these questions are from, but hopefully if you're catching the recording of this, you have recognized your question when it comes up on screen, so you will know. So final question then, unless we have any in the comments after. I'm in the middle of rebranding, which is great. Great place to be, always a good place to be. So it's taken about 9 months so far. 9 months, okay, wow, that's a long time to be rebranding for. What should I be aware of, and what do I need to consider? What do I need to do before and after the brand has been changed if I missed the end of that. If I want to get it out there into the world. Oh, my cat. My cat was sat on the keyboard then. Sorry if that was doing anything odd. So what do I need to do before and after the brand has been changed if I want to get it out there into the world? Okay, so we're talking very much about kind of launching your brand, which I'm hugely passionate about. I could talk about launching your brand forever. In fact, I might go and share. I will go and grab the ways to launch your brand. It wasn't a podcast. I think I just did it on Instagram, actually. I'll go and see if I can dig out the link and I'll send it over, because there are many ways to launch your brand. And I'm doing that thing where I'm going to come back with a question to you. But when it comes to getting your brand out there into the world, once you've gone through the whole rebranding process, you've got to choose what feels right for you. So for some people, doing kind of small changes and just kind of sneaking in little bits of the rebrand along the way could be a good way to do it. Now, of course, you're not going to want to do that for the whole 9 months that you're going for a rebranding project. So I would definitely consider wrapping up that rebranding project so that you can get some kind of timeline in place to get it out into the world, because there's no point doing that work if no one's going to actually see it. But think about what your goals are of this rebrand and why you're going through the rebranding process. Now, is it because you actually want to make a huge kind of change and you want to do a line in the sand kind of moment and you need to change everything over completely? So if you were completely rebranding your business and you were changing your business name and you were really going into a new market, or you were exploring something completely different, then it would be beneficial to have a huge kind of event that announces the launch of your new brand. Make a big song and dance about it. Get some kind of press going on around it, but just really create a big moment where there is a change, and make sure everything kind of changes over then at the same time. You could almost have a countdown timer on your website to say when the new brand is going to go live. Make it a bit like, countdown to the new year type event, and throw a little party online in your online space to show the change that's happening. But when you've gone through the effort of doing a rebrand at what kind of ever pace or level of rebrand that you're doing, you need to announce it. You've got to make a bit of a song and dance about it and announce it to the world, because no one's really going to be paying that much attention unless you make them pay attention. So I definitely consider creating some sort of event. I mean, I love doing these kind of things as a way to kind of reconnect with people, to widen your audience reach. There are a lot of new people here. Hi to all of the very new people that have never met me before. It's a really great way of connecting with people, and therefore you could, introduce a new brand, logo, mark, or style in this kind of way. You could do a series of videos that explain maybe the process behind the brand process. First of all, why you're rebranding, introduce your core values, do some of that kind of work that you've done on your brand, and share it with the world. Let them know why you are rebranding. Or if you would prefer to just kind of have a quick changeover and just go, look, here's my new brand, you can always do that, and you can turn that into a bit of a fun experience as well. Look at perhaps doing kind of a scavenger hunt on your website that might introduce some of the key elements of your new brand. You could, of course, if you're going through the branding process, as you said you are right now, start to kind of drip little hints at the fact that you're rebranding, so that you make subtle changes to your brand over the next month or so. Know when your brand is going to be finished and it's going to be ready for the world. You don't have to have a big event that marks that moment. You could just start to seep things out and start changing things little by little. So there are many ways that you can get your brand out into the world. But what you need to kind of be aware of and think about and consider is how you want to show up, why you are making these changes to your brand in the first place, what's the goal of this brand update. If you are changing your brand because you've changed your audience and you changed your market, well, then there's no better way of connecting with a new audience and inviting more people into your world than by hosting some sort of online event to introduce your new brand and to introduce your way of doing things and really make it clear what it is that you want to be known for. So create an event that launches your brand into the world. Definitely always think about, whenever you go through a branding process, think about how you want to launch your brand at the end of it. So I hope that has answered your questions. I'm going to come back into the comments now. Okay, Steve. Steve, I'm wondering whether we're the only people on this call, because it's just us, me and you, having the live questions here. I'm glad I got some pre-submitted ones. Maybe that's why we got a lot of pre-submitted questions, because people couldn't make it live. It's Thursday. What else is there to be doing on a Thursday? So, in the last session, you talked about story. I have well worked in stories galore in my speech. The speech is targeted towards a conference audience. My website is targeted towards the planners who hire me for the conference. How can I integrate the speech stories into the website copy? Ooh, okay, that's an interesting question. So yes, and top marks for knowing the distinction between who the audience of your website and who the people that are kind of paying for your services compared to the audience of the content that you're actually delivering as a speaker, because that's a big distinction to make, and it will really help you create the right kind of content and to connect with the right people on your website. So of course, what's in it for them? That's kind of a question to always come back to here. So when we're looking at stories, whenever we're looking at stories for the brand process and for obviously when you're kind of speech writing, you're thinking what's in it for them, what's in it for the audience. So taking it then, those same stories that you've used and you've practiced and you've got, what's in it for the people that are going to be hiring you on your website? It's more that kind of view piece of thinking that they are going to be hiring someone that's going to engage with their audience, because you're for hire for their audience, aren't you? So you're that next kind of level. So you're talking to them about how great these stories position you as the expert speaker to talk about this, because you've got these stories and these experiences. So it's still as valid as and important as if you were going to be presenting it to the kind of end user in this sense. That's a terrible term of phrase to talk about, but you know what I mean. Rather than the person that's buying the service from you, the person who's receiving the conference speak at the end of it, it's still the same thread of reason as to why it's important to have those stories in there. You're just going to change your terminology slightly on your website because you are talking to the person that's kind of hiring you for their audience. But it's still really important to use those story pieces in there, because that's what they're buying you for. So you may as well showcase that and show them exactly how you intend to engage and inspire their audience. So does that answer that question for you? Does that help? How do I integrate the speech stories into the website copy? You'd think about it from the planner's perspective, why it's important to them that you have these stories and that you can share these stories. So let me know if that helps, and I will check back over into... Yes, it does. Thank you so much. And you are lucky, aren't we lucky? I'm lucky to have you here. Thank you very much for showing up live and for being here. And thank you so much for sharing your kind of logo mark as well, because that was a really great example to show everyone through. So I'm really pleased with that. And if you want any follow-up advice with that, I'm going to pop into my emails in a minute and I will share the Canva document with you. And I'm around for the rest of the week and over the weekend if you need any extra support. So just let me know. But we are coming up to 45 minutes anyway, which is about the kind of time that I allow for these questions and for these sessions, because nobody needs to be hanging around for hours and hours on end. You've got plenty of important things to do. So if there are no more questions, I will end the broadcast there. And you know where to find me if you do have any follow-up questions. And if you're catching the replay and you didn't get a question answered that you need answering, make sure you let me know before the end of the week. because we've only got a few more days together now because it's Thursday. And this was our last check-in and crack on call, but that doesn't mean you can't ask questions. I'm still here tomorrow, all day tomorrow, over the weekend, and then we're going to get back together on Monday as well. So tomorrow, though, we have got the final session in the Brand Together series, which is life after your logo, which is one of my favorite topics to talk about as well. And as I just disclosed, I have been making some updates today to the slides for that. So come and join me tomorrow for that final session. And then we will be going into the weekend, and we've got time to catch up on all of the replays over the weekend. And then I will see you again on Monday for our kind of graduation celebration. So if you've got any questions between now and then, pop them over to me. And then on the graduation celebration, I might actually go through one of the live brand audits as well. So if you haven't yet downloaded and completed your brand audit, make sure you do that and send it over to me, because that will get you an entry into the prize draw as well. And I will announce the winner of the prize draw on Monday. But until then, have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow for the Life After Your Logo session, and that's at 10:30 a.m. So see you then. Bye.